Now, recently I put up on my Instagram for people to tell me what do they want to see me cover in a future video. And I got a really good question. And I got it right here along with some points. The question was, how much influence current events have on your art? I had to sit and think about this for a minute, and I'm actually going to approach this from 3 different angles. So I'm going to approach this from a business standpoint, from an artistic standpoint, and also from a mental health standpoint. Now, in terms of business, it's been pretty challenging, but at the same time, I have seen some good come out of it. So we all know about the current health crisis that's going on right now. Now, with that, and with all the closures, artists aren't able to do live art shows. They're not really able to do events and exhibits how we would normally do, right? So that has posed a big challenge in terms of income and generating some revenue from the artwork. For me, it's been a challenge because there's pieces that I've done that, I've promoted online, haven't sold online, but I know that if I were able to get these in a show or some sort of exhibit, that I would have got those pieces sold. I would have found somebody that would have gravitated towards it. Another thing for me in terms of, working without the health crisis or before the health crisis happened, I like going out and doing the live shows because I'm able to connect with an audience. And not only are they able to see my work, but they're able to see my personality. That's part of the reason why YouTube kind of came along. So out of all of this, current events impacted me in a way that it pushed me to finally start a YouTube. I've been talking about starting a YouTube since 2018, and I just kept putting it off. I was telling myself, I don't have a great camera. I don't have, a mic. I don't have all these type of things. And then finally I was just like, I'm just going to start recording for YouTube. I'm going to put all my time lapses on it. Also, I started putting my time lapses on YouTube because of the algorithms with Instagram and whatnot. I was like, it's just not worth it. So the current state of the world, the current events going on, it pushed me to look into different avenues to get my work out there and try and connect with people. So because I'm not able to do the live shows where people can meet me and we can discuss my pieces, and then they can see my personality and the man behind the work, now I'm able to get on YouTube and I can give a bit of explanation, and then we can kind of vibe off of that. So that's one way in terms of business, how it's impacted me. I have lost some income, and my loss of income comes from the prints. When I was doing the shows and exhibits are out there amongst the people, it was much more easier to sell prints, right? And prints are a large way of revenue because you're making money off of artwork that you did without selling it for hundreds or thousands of dollars, and you're selling it to people that have a budget. So let's say they can only afford a $20 to $80 print. So in that way, you sold the artwork still. You're able to sell multiples of these, and then you still have the original to sell. So with the current health crisis going on, my print sales have gone down a lot. But another interesting thing is that I sold a lot of originals this year, whereas previous years I didn't really sell that many originals, but people have been more inclined and more looking for original artwork. So it's kind of a trade-off in a sense. Ideally, I would like to sell a lot more prints than I have been, but like I said, it's kind of a trade-off. So let's get to the artistic side of things. Now, artistically, with all the events going on, it's kind of pushed me to kind of be more socially inclined to include certain things in my artwork. So I don't get super political. I don't get super social and whatnot, but there are certain elements that I put in my artwork to talk about the current state of the world and to kind of document the time that we live in. I don't do this for every piece, but I definitely want, when people look back at my work, or even me sometimes, when I look back at my work, I can say this is where we were at this point in time in the world. This is where I was at. This was my frame of thinking. This is how a lot of people felt. So when you look at pieces like Moonwalker, or you look at pieces like Forgotten behind me, that came out of what's been going on in the world. Moonwalker is how a lot of us have been feeling, including myself, of just, you know, this planet, it's almost become like a prison, and you just want off of it. You want off of it for that slight moment of just peace and just quiet to yourself. You want to be away from all the social media. You want to be away from everything going on. You just want that escape. That's where a piece like Moonwalker came out of. So that's how today's times have pushed me as an artist. Another thing too is people's reactions and interactions with my work. as you guys know, or may not know, I created a piece earlier this year. It got pulled down from everywhere that I put it up, including Instagram. So it was interesting to see that happen, but also I absolutely loved that so many people had something to say, whether it was negative or positive, because I crafted a piece of work that was able to ignite emotions in someone to the point that they couldn't just scroll past it and leave it alone, that they had to say something. It moved something in them that they had to voice their opinion. Now, for the people that liked it, it moved something in them enough to say that, hey, this artist is taking chances. And before you guys just get all triggered by the imagery at first, take a look at the deeper meaning, take a look at the symbolism, take a look at the craftsmanship, and you can really see what's going on in this painting. So I absolutely loved that I was able to do that with that painting that I created. So that's one way that current events of today have shaped my artwork. Now, another thing too is highlighting issues. Now, I didn't highlight too much of what's going on just because the art world was so saturated, especially with Black artists. It was so saturated with certain themes. One of them being the victimhood, which I often talk about. I don't necessarily like painting or doing pictures of victimhood, just because us as Black people, we've been sold so much of that. Like, we've been sold that through music, we've been sold that through movies, through music. If I'm gonna do it, I want to do it in a creative way that's gonna make you use it, that's gonna make you think. That's not just gonna be so easily digestible, that's gonna be so upfront. I want it to be something that you're gonna have to step back and look at, or you might need a minute to process. So I haven't covered too much of what's been going on. So in terms of that, just outright and blunt, right? So a piece like Forgotten, it covers, you know, children dying of violence, children that have been subjected to violence, but we do know that there's things that have been highlighted in the times of now, like police brutality or just certain racial issues. Now, I could have done that, but I'm like, there's so much of that artwork out here right now. There's so many people covering it. You know, it's way too easy to gain an audience from that. But I could have put, you know, cops arrest. I could have painted cops arresting a Black man. Everybody would have loved it and jumped and clapped. But I was like, I have to highlight something else that is going on here that we're not really paying attention to, that's not really getting a lot of traction in the media, but is very detrimental to the children and is affecting our society in a big way. So it's a play off of both things, you know. And yeah, it's one of the challenges as an artist, because it's like, do you go with the herd? Do you go with the herd of people that you know, if you do this type of art, you're gonna get everything that you want out of it, or everything that can be had out of it? You're gonna get, you know, a bunch of reposts, you're gonna get a bunch of likes and attention, and you're gonna get a sale? Or do you go with the more daring route? You know, a similar message, but something that people might not really take to. Now, my last part that I want to touch on is mental health. Mental health, you know, I talk about this a lot. I talk about this a lot in terms of my work also. With mental health and how the times of today have affected me as an artist, I'd say that there was a point where there was a struggle of staying focused. Not necessarily with finishing my pieces or coming up with ideas, but some days, like, it was just really challenging, you know, dealing with personal issues and personal things going on, and then dealing with how this world was just changing. Like, this world has changed so fast and drastically within 1 year. Within 1 year, this world has changed. Like, typically you see the world change over a course of 5 years, maybe 10. 1 year, 2020, and it's not even done yet, and things have just changed so drastically. And just trying to process that and operate out in the world while all of this is going on. You can't leave your house without a mask now. You can't go into a store without a mask. So it's adjusting to all of that, and trying to stay sane. And through all of this, there's been times where I didn't even feel like doing artwork. I didn't feel like painting. I try to paint every day, you know, follow that 10,000 hours of work rule. But there's some days I just didn't feel like it. I've sat in this very chair, sat in front of my easel, and just stared at my canvas at times until, you know, I mustered up enough strength in me, or just enough will that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put in, you know, 30 minutes. I'm gonna put in an hour. And then sometimes I get lost in the painting and I'm there till like 3 in the morning. But, you know, that's how it's impacted me in that way. Another thing too, feeling a lack of progress. So it's kind of tricky online, where there's so many people to tag, and, you know, hashtags and all these various platforms. But sometimes you can feel that you have a really good painting, and that you can feel it's supposed to reach all these people, that certain people would gravitate towards it, and it doesn't work that way. It doesn't happen how you think. And sometimes that could force you, or that could make you feel like you haven't made enough progress. You know, do 3 paintings, like, I'll use myself as an example, do 3 paintings in a row, and it's kind of, you know, more or less the same across with the analytics and the data, and in terms of the shares and all that. So without being able to go out into the real world, like I said earlier, where you can see real-time interactions happen, you're forced to be online and push your work through there. And then if it doesn't hit certain heights that you expected, you could feel like damn, I'm not doing enough as an artist. I'm not reaching where I need to be. So that could also make you feel a bit discouraged too as an artist. And I've definitely felt that. Even right now, I'm at a point where I'm thinking, like, well, what do I gotta do next to kind of forward my art career, to kind of forward myself as an artist and reach that next level? Like, what do I have to do? What do I gotta come up with? Who do I gotta reach out to? You know, a part of this thing is connections, right? So it forces you in that frame of mind. Now, there is a good thing that came out. There is a good thing that came out of all of this, is that you become more therapeutic in your artwork. So for me, to go back to a piece like Moonwalker, I was able to find therapy in that piece. And that piece came by complete accident. I didn't plan out that piece. I didn't, have some draft created for that. That just came to me on a whim. And that came to me on a whim because of how I was feeling. And I felt that, you know what, I have to create this because I'm sure I'm not the only one. And I have to get out my thoughts and feelings about what's going on with me, about just how depressed I was feeling with everything changing in the world and the issues I'm going through, and just feeling that I've got to get away from all of it. So doing that painting was very therapeutic for me. It gave me a sense of peace, in a sense. And even though it didn't, hit how I wanted it to hit with the audience, I loved it. And part of art, and any art form that you guys do, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's painting, sometimes you're going to do things and it's not necessarily for your audience, it's for you. It's for you to feel that sense of comfort and peace. So that's it for the video. Awesome, excellent question. Catch you in the next one. Peace.